Hey, welcome to the segment. This is our spoiler review of The Last Witch Hunter. And we did a spoiler-free review. That's in the previous upload to this. So if you don't want spoilers, click below for that link. If you want the spoilers, you want to hear what we have to say, stay right here. Okay, Van, now we're free to talk about anything. What's your real thoughts?
I was disappointed. I think it really had the feel of a 2 or 3 or maybe a 4 film series.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of started off a little bit like a 13th Warrior. It started off perhaps like the Middle Earth. What's the name of that show? I've forgotten for the moment. You mentioned it earlier.
Lord of the Rings.
Lords of the Rings. It had all those feels to it, and I thought Vin Diesel, when he was in the character with all the facial hair and everything, I thought he looked awesome. And I think they should have pushed that to the limit a little bit. I would have liked to have seen him perhaps with Rose Leslie back in those days.
Yeah.
Because I think
she didn't make any sense to the way that his character was,
right,
where he was banging stewardesses and he lived in a Manhattan skyrise. There's no reason for him to be at all interested in this woman.
Right, and I think if perhaps the way I would have enjoyed it more, and maybe it's more cliche, but I think if he'd have been in love with her then, she looked more like that era, because she's had you've seen her in Game of Thrones, you've seen her in Downton Abbey, so she's a very good actress. I think they should have utilised her more in that role, and then when she dies, let's say, and then now in 2015, he sees the carbon copy of it, and then it would have made more sense, because now he's attracted to her, even though really that wouldn't be his type in 2015.
Which has happened a million times before, but I think it would have worked in this movie, because it would have made a hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have been drawn to her in 2015. There's no way.
And also, too, what I think could have worked in this movie as well is that it could have just been a straight reincarnation story all the way around, because you only see him in 1200 something.
Right.
Then you only see him in modern day.
Right.
Why would not have him just be reincarnated in modern day and live a similar life that he had lived before? But when you cut out that whole middle part, there's no reason to make him immortal, except for that he's immortal so that he can't get hurt. And then that takes a lot of the wind out of the sails, especially when your character's immortal. When he's hecka buff, it just it's no fun.
Well, and you mentioned Hegabuff, big guy, and he doesn't have any compassion, and they didn't build enough relationships that you really couldn't care if anybody died or lived.
He was completely Vin Diesel.
Yeah, it was like Vin Diesel playing Vin Diesel, and I think the first part, I didn't feel like that. I felt that he was good in that role, so I think they should have expanded that. Elijah Wood, good performance.
I didn't.
Bit milky, not great. Michael Caine always delivers. I thought Rose Leslie did a good job given the parameters. I think, to be honest, the direction was lacking.
Because it seems like Rose Leslie might have been able to do something, but she wasn't allowed.
Well, and that's the point. I think the director has to take the blame, and maybe the writer. I don't know if they were in collusion, or if it was written one way and the director took it another way. He started off great. It was like he was running a marathon. The first 12 miles, he was brilliant. And then he had a walk on because it was awful.
Because the second half of the film, and I looked at my watch right about the time when it happened, because I was like, when are they going to hit back on these things?
Yeah.
And it was about 45 minutes exactly into the movie, and so the movie's about an hour and 45 minutes long. The second hour turns into a video game.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
And you had your first boss.
Yep.
You had your big boss. You had your muscle boss. It was the monster. It turned into like he's got to beat this guy, then he's got to beat this guy, and then this guy, and it just turned into a schlocky action.
Well, the reality is it could have done with a little less of that and a little bit more storytelling.
Yeah, why not?
Bridge of Spies, for example, tell the story. Don't go for too much action. I mean, not you can't kill action. You want action, but when it's called for. And the whole cliche thing, with trees and roots. I mean, what is this now? Every show's got to have trees and pull you in. Can't they think of something more, novel?
It would have been fun to see maybe too that magic was a little more subtle.
Right.
And so that maybe even related to some things happening in present day. Like, for example, you might see like a stock market crash.
Yeah.
And then they might find out like a witch made the stock market crash.
Maybe we should write the film next time.
Let's do it. Like even... like something like a terrorist attack, and then it ends up being witches, and that's how something like that. But no, the witch stuff in here was like literal sparklers and like a floating cloud of smoke, and it just
It reminded me of the
was too
Mummy,
much.
with all the little flying around.
Definitely, yeah, because what's his name in the Mummy too, Ben. Whatever. Oh God, I don't want to remember his name.
It was terrible.
It's like totally miscast there. And see, what this movie needed, if he was going to be immortal, because when you're immortal, you kind of want it to be more of a vulnerable guy.
I agree.
And I think it could have used like Keanu Reeves in his prime, not Keanu Reeves now, but.
Although he did look pretty good in the last movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he's like on Social Security at this point. He's getting up there. But like a character like that, where he seems more vulnerable, but then he's immortal. But when you have it's like I see movies sometimes. Like I watched a movie one time of Samson and Delilah, like a movie made in the 1960s. Samson, big oily muscles. And this and that, and just the biggest guy on the screen, and everybody in the movie, the Bible story, everybody in the movie is like, what's your secret of your strength? What's the secret of his strength? And finally he says it's his hair. And I'm like, well, if Samson was a huge-ass buff guy, nobody'd be asking the secret of his strength, because he'd be like, obviously it's because he's big-ass buff guy.
Yep.
So, when you have a big-ass buff guy can beat everybody up and is immortal, you're just like, yeah, whatever. It's just a big-ass buff guy. When you have a Keanu Reeves type slender kind of guy that's able to do those things, it makes it funner.
Well, I think the other thing was that, there was a lot of good things in it. That, the clever, where they had the committee of all the,
Yeah, they could have used a lot more of that.
Yeah, there's so many good things. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they had a great script, and then they kind of picked the actors in it and didn't quite get it right. And then somewhere over here, they lost the plot.
And you know what I think might have been a part of it too is I bet hypothetically maybe this was a bigger story.
I think so.
And then they brought it because I don't know if it was a book first or what, but hypothetically let's say it was a bigger story. This is what it seems like. They brought it to the studio and they said, okay, we'll make this movie. And we want to turn it into a trilogy because it's very obvious from the ending they wanted to turn it into a trilogy.
Think so. Mm-hmm.
But we want to make sure that we wrap everything up though, just in case it's not going to be a trilogy.
The panic factor.
Yeah, and so let's take the two movies and turn them into one, and then just in case it doesn't turn into a trilogy, it's still a full movie, because imagine if they had to have done that with Lord of the Rings. If Lord of the Rings was very confident in that movie that it was going to be a sequel, but imagine if they weren't sure if there was going to be a sequel, what kind of BS they would have had to shove into that.
Well, the thing is, you want the crowd wanting more. You got to walk away going, they didn't leave it there, did they? Mm-hmm. This film didn't do that.
Yeah. They wanted their cake and they wanted to eat it too.
Yeah, and it was sad because I think if, again, I've repeated myself, but I think if they'd have kept it back more in the days when he had all the beard and 1200.
Well, I mean, he was immortal, so why not show a little bit of the Renaissance? Yeah. Show a little bit of the revolution, so a little bit of the Civil War or something like that.
It might have been okay keeping it in that era for a while, and maybe build that, and then suddenly we're in the future, and then it's like, oh, and then there's your lead for your next movie. Where did he go? The problem is you walked away from the movie thinking, oh, it's all right, but it wasn't outstanding. So we're going to talk about scores. I gave it a 5 out of 10, and that's generous.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the kind of movie where I think the review of the movie is probably funner than watching the movie. I had more fun talking about the movie than watching the movie, and I'm going to give it a C-. And that extra minus is because they obviously blatantly lied in the movie trailer, where the movie trailer was 90% the 12th century and 10% modern time. And you're going to have a lot of people going to this movie thinking that they're going to be watching a Lord of the Rings style movie. And really, it's just Fast and Furious with witches.
But I still think, it's worth watching. Don't just throw it away and think, don't bother.
I just wouldn't pay to watch it.
No, Netflix, Redbox, or if you're going to watch it at home because it now makes to the, HBO or whatever. It's definitely worth watching. It's not a don't bloody watch it. I mean, it's definitely worth watching. Vin Diesel is, like I said, is big and buff. So he's got some good fight scenes. It's worth watching.
Yeah, you can tell that money was spent.
90 million.
Yeah. Oh wow, 90 million. Jeez.
I believe so. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
That's kind of sad.
They could have given us the 90
I
million.
know.
We'd have made a hell of a good film.
Jeez.
And we could have reviewed it as well.
It didn't seem like 90 million was spent. I take that back.
Well,
but you can tell that there was, maybe 30 million spent.
Maybe it was 90,000.
Yeah. Well, it was probably, a good portion of it probably went to pay off some producers or something. I don't know how Hollywood works, but yeah, it's definitely a real movie.
Yeah, no, it feels like a real movie.
But you know what? If I had to recommend it to anybody, it would be like teenagers.
Yeah.
Like a teenager on a date.
There's no doubt they're going to enjoy it. They're going to think it's.
But
great.
like a movie buff.
Yeah. If you're a serious movie fan, you may not enjoy it. But I think kids, that going out to be insane is quite fun.
Yeah. I mean, and it does have a little bit of a Halloween feel. I mean, we're talking about witches.
Yeah.
So makes sense having it come out now.
That's a good idea. Go to Halloween, go out and have a date and watch that. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of what a popcorn movie might be described like.
Popcorn movie, there you go.
You just there to watch it.
3 beer movie.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, we will see you next time. We also, before you leave, you might want to check out the link below. We talked to some movie fans that saw the movie. That's called Movie Fans React. That's below in the description. You can click on that and watch that. And subscribe to Blue Number Media. We have a lot of things coming up. Celebrity interviews. We're doing a new dating show now, like a reality show. Just all sorts of fun stuff. Oh, we have a food show called Delicious Hit. Delicious is spelled with 2 S's. DeliciousHit.com. Do the math on that. But anyway, so subscribe to our YouTube channel and stick around. We got a lot of stuff coming up. And thanks for watching. You want to do a little cheers?
I do. Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Samo. Prost. Azbedania.